And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Yes, sir. Hello to you. My name is Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And this is 100 Watts and a Wire, the flagship of our offerings here. We were an audio podcast in 2015. And then in September, we made the jump to video, much to the dismay of people who look at us. Steve is here, W7UDI. From the Pacific Northwest. Good morning to you, Steve.
Morning, Christian.
Had quite a pre-show this morning. Various topics from car mechanics to Texas, and talking about all the things that are happening in the world right now. And it's always a fun time to gather with people. It's at 9 o'clock Central. I'll do a pre-show. It's fun for me because I can get into the chat. And then sometimes you read things that you shouldn't read about yourself, like, oh no, like, did he ever have hair? Like, you know, the great comments like that. But welcome to this ham radio talk show. Today we're going to be talking about, you know, the importance of building, why we build. And I've mentioned before, I was licensed in 2012 now, and the only thing that I love building is antennas. And I'm fascinated by the people who build kits and these radios, and you know, and then there's a mixture of programming and all, you know, all the elements that go into creating new radios and all kind of stuff like that. So I really am on the small end, the fascination side of building. I get it, totally love it. I just don't, you know, it just wasn't I'm on this side of the microphone, but we'll meet Dave today, November Mike, Zero Sierra, and he's going to come and teach us some stuff, I hope. And we'll at least talk about why building is important. Did you fancy yourself a builder and all, Steve? I know you love antenna making and things like that. But did you ever get through the kits? Oh, yeah.
Done kits. I built the last rash of kits that I built were a bunch of repeater controllers. And I just sit down and go from there. Start slapping them together, you know, ordering the parts. Well, ordered the kit, which was the board and the chips, and then I'd order all the other parts, the resistors, capacitors, and everything else that's needed, and sit down and just start soldering away. And done those and fashioned up, you know, different little gadgets and this and that, and already kind of figuring out, coming up with a simplified audio PTT switcher, and then that I need to incorporate here with the radio, so I can just use the one microphone and then just switch between the two radios. I could probably find something that MFJ makes, and I could probably make it work, but why not put something together? And then a few other little odds and ends, little things that will help enhance the station, more enhancements, and those are those little gadgets that are kind of nice to slap together. So
yeah, they make some small kits, you know, little things that just kind of get you started on soldering and those kind of things. But yeah, I want to get there. I want to get to building some. I'm burning them down, I guess. But burning, see, that's my conscience. You'll burn the house down. Don't get into this. This is not for you.
You're going to burn the house down.
Leave it to professionals. You can't even unplug the toaster. You know, all these things. God. That was my mom talking. But this is David's site here.
Yeah. So there's lots of kits out there, just simple stuff that just you'll end up, you know, learning, you know, soldering techniques and go from there.
All right, we're gonna start a little early. I'll send you there. I can see the chat is very busy. I'll send you there, and we'll bring up David and talk to David. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you here. It's November Mike, Zero Sierra. I just popped your site up here. It's fascinating for me. I think you've heard my capabilities when it comes to building, but I like to talk to the people who really know how to do these things. So good morning to you, sir.
Hey, awesome. Good morning, everybody online here this morning.
Well, we have a bit in common here. I'm from Baltimore, and you had a stint where you worked at Westinghouse in Baltimore, and I won't ask you what you thought of the town because I know I left it too. But it is. Did you become a sports fan at all when you lived there?
I'll tell you, I was moving into Baltimore, heading down I-70, and there were all these Mayflower moving vans going the opposite direction. That was the Baltimore Colts leaving town.
I know. What a soft, sore spot. What a sad day, right? What a sad day.
Yeah.
I was a little younger then, but I had been to Colts games, and we loved the Colts. It was and then it became anytime you drive through Indianapolis, my stepdad gives the finger to the stadium to this day on any trip back and forth. It's automatic. But we were rewarded later in the 90s when we got the Ravens. So,
for sure.
But you've had such an interesting career. I don't know if you're still working now. Are you still working?
Oh yeah, I got some debts to pay, but what's more, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So yeah, I get paid for it too. So it's win-win.
Let's walk through. I mean, I was introduced to the hobby through my dad, who was into CBs in the 70s. And I just thought the immediacy of this all is so cool. It was great. He could make contacts locally or somebody on the move. I didn't understand how that would happen. It was just so great to be a kid and see these sorts of things. And it led to a career behind the microphone. And I ultimately became licensed as an amateur radio operator in 2012. So building for me is just sort of this fascinating piece of, a lack of understanding, but a real appreciation. When you were younger, kind of when did you know that you had felt the need to put things together?
Oh, well, I started out making crystal radios when I was 8 years old. I remember getting a quarter pound of magnet wire and thought I was just the richest kid on earth. Yeah, okay, grade school library has Alfred P. Morgan, and I bet a lot of guys watching this morning have thumbed through this book and gotten inspiration on building things. And Morgan was a genius in presenting these fairly advanced concepts in a way that would inspire a young person in preteen years that he can go and build these things. And the learning experience was not mentioned, but an inescapable consequence.
Now, was it radio? I mean, for me, hearing the radio, knowing about the radio, these airwaves, these voices coming out, was that the first thing you were pulled to, or were you kind of building things, as a small child?
Well, I came of age just at the point when Legos were starting to make penetration, and that's kind of the universal constant amongst all young people for building things. And I was drawn to the electronic side of things. I received a Radio Shack Globe Patrol regenerative shortwave receiver. I think I was probably 11, and that really lit the fire for interest in radio related things.
So it wasn't exclusive to radio, but really radio was kind of at the root, would you say?
Well, definitely not exclusive to radio. I mean, I had notions at one time of becoming an architect, but radio was kind of the constant that kept things going. And of course, remember, this is 1970s when shortwave was really at its prime, and you could put a wire up and hear all these wonderful megawatt international broadcasters, and it was fascinating to listen to.
What did your folks think about your interest? Did they enable you? Were they a little concerned about your new interests?
Oh, they were very supportive, and I didn't burn down the house with chemistry lab experiments, so that was a plus. But having carcasses of clock radios and various discarded electronic items that I would laboriously salvage useful parts out of, it filled a corner of my bedroom, and it was easy enough to overlook.
When did you become a ham?
Oh, that's a story in of itself. I went through my younger years and never knew anybody who was a ham. Of course, the public library had the ARRL handbook, so I was able to kind of learn about it on a secondhand basis. Not until I got to college, my college roommate, Jeff Fisher, AB5E, had become an extra class ham at a very young age, and he persuaded me that I needed to do this. Not that I needed a whole lot of persuading, but he administered my novice exam and became KA9MCV in November of 1981.
Oh, that's great. And so you become a ham, and I imagine you're going through high school, you get to the college, you're building things. What are some of the early things that you remember building that you were really proud of and that really kind of encouraged your momentum going forward?
Oh, just lots of radio items. I remember designing and building a bug radio listening device, which absolutely enthralled my college roommates, and they ended up using it for various nefarious purposes. But I think the die was cast pretty early.
And so you go on to have a career where you're working with, Westinghouse and other large sort of broadcast sort of entities. What were you doing in broadcasting?
Well, the Electronics Defense Center that Westinghouse had out in Baltimore, they were doing a lot of radar equipment, some communication gear. I ended up working on VLF transmitter systems, which was another kind of interest. The long wave beacons, you could hear the navigational beacons all up and down the East Coast, and that was really interesting. And having a chance to get my hands on those frequencies was a lot of fun as well. And just at that time, Westinghouse was getting out of broadcasting. They had spun off the Group W broadcasting service, and I thought that was a mistake personally, because solid state electronics was coming into the fore, and the world was transitioning out of tube transmitters into solid state, and I thought that we could design and produce a very competitive solid state AM transmitter, and couldn't get any traction. So ended up jumping ship and going to Broadcast Electronics in Quincy, Illinois, which as a plus was very close to where I grew up. So it was a chance to get back home and be close to friends and family and design some cool transmitter stuff.
So you might be a Cubs or a White Sox fan? Bears?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Well, everybody I know has fond memories of Harry Carey.
Yes. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, just unique. Unique. Maybe brilliant's not the right word, but it's such a unique character. And by that sixth inning, you got a really, by the seventh inning, you had a really interesting version of Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
He loved what he did, and that's an essential quality that sets you apart.
Let's fast forward a little bit, because I want to talk to you about ham radio and building and its importance. Why is it important to you?
It is, well, it's an essential part of the builder maker culture, and that culture really didn't have a name until recently, but it was a very integral part of the American technical experience. If you look at stories of Arthur Collins, founder of Collins Radio, and he built crystal radios when he was 8 years old and got his ham license at 14 and went on to found this fantastic company with so many innovations and so much history. And his start in tinkering and building and experimenting, in many ways, my own experience paralleled that. But I fear that the way that technology has evolved, we're kind of losing that essential aspect of technology as being something that young people can experience on a hands-on basis and learn from and be drawn into a hobby or a career in.
How important is it in your mind that amateur radios understand how this equipment works?
It's essential, and I work a lot with young people, and both from the high school level and interviewing people coming out of college, and I'll talk to a 16-year-old kid who's really bright, and I'll ask him, what do you want to do with yourself? And invariably, if he's technically inclined, he wants to go on and design computer games, because that's his technological exposure. And you try to hire somebody out of college, find somebody who can design a transformer, and that's almost impossible. He'll say, what, like Optimus Prime? But there's the analog and power and RF side of things that nobody is interested in. Nobody has the exposure except those who stumble upon it through ham radio.
What do you think? Something good. I'm bringing up your website again, and you can check this out. It's just your call sign. You can type in November Mike 0 Sierra Electronics there. What do you think is a good starting point for somebody like me? I mean, I'm not a kid, but I have interest in it, and I've got these snap circuits for my 6-year-old who is really showing interest in how these sorts of things work and electricity. So I play around with her in a little bit because that's good for her. For maybe someone who's grown up or just getting in, or even a teenager, what's a good place to start?
Well, I will actually divert you away from my website to 4sqrp.com. And this is the 4 States QRP group, with which I'm closely associated, and I design the majority of kits for them as well. And so they have not only kits for QRP ham, but a lot of things aimed at pre-licensed people, AM broadcast receivers, shortwave receivers, code practice oscillators, things like that, which you don't have to be licensed to be able to use. So you go over to the left, and there's the list of kits, and you click on that, and that will show you some of the things that are available.
Okay. Some things over here make it large enough for people here. Yep. So we're in the right spot. Here you are, guys. Check this out, 4 States QRP group. And then you can go down here on the left side. Dave tells us.
The red tab just near the top.
Here, this one here?
The kits. Yep, Shop 4 State Kits.
Okay.
And that is our roster of kits. And there are QRP transceivers. The Nouveau 75 is a 75-meter AM transceiver. Hilltopper is a wonderful design from Dave Benson. Yeah, this is one of my favorites, the Nouveau 75. It's kind of inspired by Dave Benson's Retro 75, but it's updated with the newer technology. It's 5 watts of carrier, which, if you are familiar with AM, that means it's pretty low powered, but we've sold hundreds of these, and we get really good reports of some decent distance, and users generally have very, very positive regard and reviews of these.
It's really cool. Okay, there's let's get that website again for you guys. So do a search for 4 State QRP group, and it looks like a repository of friends of yours, people you know, and
well, yeah, the 4 State group is really kind of centered out of the Branson, Missouri area. And it started out as hams in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. But the popularity of the group has expanded. We've got a lot of folks from Iowa, Minnesota, and Illinois as well. A lot of folks from Texas who participate. But it's a unique group in that we don't charge dues. The operating revenue comes from kit sales, and the kits are assembled by volunteers, and the proceeds go to funding Ozark Con, which is the second largest QRP event in North America. Branson, Missouri, first weekend in April. It will be a virtual event this year, but in person, it's a load of fun.
All right, cool. Are there any other resources that you could maybe direct us to, in the time between? This is a great one as well, but anything else, and maybe mention clubs a little bit in our final moments.
Oh, definitely. I will direct you also to Rex Harper, W1REX, and his website is QRPME. He's up in Limerick, Maine. He's an incredibly creative and prolific designer, and he has a load of kits for sale. And Four States kits are great. Rex's kits are great. The Pacific Antenna guys have another bunch of really great kits. When Heathkit went under, there was a huge vacuum in terms of what is available, simple things to build, and the creative people in the QRP community have really stepped forward and filled that vacuum. And there's a lot of really good kits available.
Well, Dave, I appreciate your time this morning, and we'll have to talk sports again, and then just a little bit, and then we'll have to get into what I'm going to build. You see, I'm putting it off. But and if you had a decent experience, maybe you come back and you can teach us something. We can break off some small bites and come back and kind of begin, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. We haven't even touched the building stuff, but there are some really good experiences that can be had out there.
Yeah, I'd love to have you come back, and maybe we can figure out a way to show it. I think that's the one thing that we're all missing now between the COVID and not being able to get to Fest is we can't actually see it and be there and watch it happen. So that would be a kind of nice element, but no pressure. I just an open door if you want to come back and hang with us again.
I'd love to.
Perfect. It's done. I got to let it go there. You said yes. We're going to have you back. Have a great weekend, David. Take care of yourself. And we'll
thank you, Christian.
We'll connect again.
Good to meet you. Okay.
73.
73.
The ICOM 705 is your perfect QRP companion as you have base station features and functionality at the tip of your fingers. But it's in a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo or just over 2 pounds. With RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. It's got that large 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall. And the perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack. It's the LC192. It has a special compartment for the IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios. All right, brothers and sisters, this is the part of the show where I bring in my friends from Amateur Radio Newsline, my colleagues. We put together these stories every week, and we pick 2 stories. I think everybody knows the format. I hope you know the format, but look, here they are. Karen, KD2GUT. Look great. You look great.
Oh.
Your setup is so great, and Paul is a correspondent on Mars.
Live from Mars.
Could be a little delay there, but this is exclusive stuff. What is it, about 12-minute delay, I think, Paul?
Yeah, something like that. I wanted to just point out, just jog my memory as he was talking, this right here is my first kit. I was in either the end of 4th grade or 5th grade, and my 4th grade teacher was big into Heathkit. He had come from the Benton Harbor area.
Let's see it, Paul. Hold it up again. Let's see. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I got kind of interested, and he convinced my parents to get me this, and he'd show me how to solder and all that. And that was my very first kit, and it went on from there. Our library in the grade school I went to had those Alfred P. Morgan books. There were 2 or 3, I think he had, and I read those all the time. I think I was the only kid in the school who read those books on a regular basis. So that brings back a lot of memories.
It's cool. And you've got something behind you today, Karen.
Mm-hmm. It's a little more earthbound than what Paul has. Paul is out of this world today. Paul, you're out of this world every day, but
we were geeking out over the weekend.
I've got my feet on terra firma. We're talking about a map here that maybe in another year will have a lot more antennas on it. Our top story this week was about a surge in folks in the UK who want to train to either get their license or upgrade their license online. Now, there's a waiting list. I mean, people are busting to get, you'd think they were giving away the air for free. Oh, wait a minute. But they're doing it. They're really pushing the limits of the registration rolls to get involved, to get their training. And then, of course, they will be getting their tests. We spoke with Bath-based distance learning, which is one of the many places giving this free online training. And we spoke with South Notts ARC. Both reported unprecedented demand. Now, I spoke to the Radio Society of Great Britain about this, and they have put on their website a list of all of the groups that are providing these free services. And they acknowledge that this is not just a question of people having more time on their hands. I mean, they could be making sourdough bread like the rest of us, or building kits, which they're probably doing, we hope. They want to do this. They feel a need to be connected. They feel a need to learn new things. They're excited about ham radio. I hate to say this is the upside of the pandemic, but if we have to have an upside, let it be this. So we felt this was worth exploring this week. In, as I say, next year, I hope to put this map up behind me and show a lot more antennas.
And Paul, this is just about training.
Yeah, it's great that all of a sudden there's this interest, because, I mean, a lot of it is going to be extra people for emergency communication.
Try again. It's okay. There's a delay and a little glitch in the Wi-Fi.
Can you edit that part out so I can say communications? But with any luck, a lot of those people are going to get more involved in other parts of it. Because, while MCOM is an important part of what we do, there's so much else that if you just focus on that, I think maybe we have a chance to keep a lot of those hams too, which is great. And it's also good for Great Britain because, and the UK in general, because a lot of the frequencies there have been recently, in question, and a surge of hams gives a lot more interest in use for those frequencies. So they'll, look at that and go, it affects a lot more people now.
Karen, is it the training to lead to the license, or is there any studies that say, a percentage of the people that are training here will go on to get their license? Can we tell what's really going to happen after the training?
Absolutely. You actually anticipated what I was going to say as a follow-up. You are reading my mind, which is dangerous.
That's how it goes. That's how we are.
Many of these are upgrades. How about that? They've already been hams. They're upgrading. They want their additional license. They want a higher level. It's incredible. They're adding classes. They're adding curriculum. They're working hard. They're working very hard to accommodate people, and where they can't, they tell them to exercise just a little more patience, like waiting to be recognized in the pileup.
Yeah, right on. Paul, story number 2 for today.
Well, story number 2 all ties into what I'm wearing, and the picture behind me. The picture behind me is a nod to the current excitement about space, where the fine folks at NASA landed a big RC off-road vehicle on Mars and didn't break anything. Right. And it's up there happily sending back pictures, which congratulations to the Perseverance team. However, the shirt here with the pointing backwards with the classic meatball logo, is a tip of the hat to Voyager 2, which was also in the news recently. Because all of us can relate. You've been talking to a repeater reliably, and then all of a sudden you start to lose it and you can't reach it anymore. And you troubleshoot and you figure out what it is, and you figure out it's just your antenna is old and needs to be cleaned up and replaced, which is exactly what they discovered, that the only station on Earth that is set up to talk to Voyager, which has been on its way out since 1977, is in Canberra, Australia. And they needed to upgrade the dish and the electronics at the top of the tower. And they just got that done late October. And they sent a test ping out to it. And Voyager had just been flying out there patiently going, well, I hope they call again. And they sent the ping and it said, hey, I'm still here. And it talked back. And now they can send commands to it again. And they can start to get data back from Voyager 2. So 44 years that satellite has been on its way out of the solar system. And we're still talking to it. And congratulations to the folks down in Canberra for getting the antenna up and refurbished and back online. And that's just something I know that, we all can, when you go out there and you check that connections, the traps have gotten corroded or dirty or water's seeped into a connector. So you replace all that, you put up and bing, there's your repeater or your stations again. And it's like, yeah, gotta love that. Now I've been a space nerd most of my life. So this kind of stuff I just love.
What do you think, Karen?
Well, there's a lesson here. No antenna too big or too small. I know every time we have a snowstorm here, which we've been having a bit on the East Coast, I cross my fingers, and so far it's held up just fine. But pay attention to your antennas, folks. Whether it's a dish or just something you have attached to the side of your house. Unless it's in your attic, but even the ones in the attic need maintenance. All antennas need love.
That's great. That's a T-shirt right there. I'm going to write that down. All antennas need love. Beautiful. I'll split that with you. Okay. We'll sell at least 2.
3, maybe 4.
3. I figured Paul wouldn't buy it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Take one for the team.
My thanks to Karen. She's the editor of Amateur Radio Newsline, KD2 GUT. Paul is an anchor for Amateur Radio Newsline, WD9 GCO. Thank you, friends, for bringing the stories again this week. And you're all welcome to leave your comments below and let us know. We'll go through the chat and get your opinion. It's a two-way conversation. 73 to you both, and have a great weekend. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Let's take a minute to talk about what I feel is the most beneficial deal in ham radio today. It's when you become a sustaining member of 100 Watts and a Wire. Here's how it works. When you donate $25 or more, you will become a sustaining member for a year. And during that year, you get discounts from participating businesses. It's a win-win-win. The show gets your support. You get the discounts, a little more money in your pocket for your next project, and those businesses can earn your trust. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click the Sustaining Membership tab to learn how you can support the content you enjoy. And thanks. Okie dokie, welcome back. It's Christian, K0STH, Steve W7UDI. He's been hanging out with you in the chat room. What's going on there? Any good reaction?
Oh, man, the Legos.
Legos.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that brought up some
Dave started us into a Lego.
Oh, yeah. And just, my youngest son and his Legos and the oldest son and the hand-me-downs, the 20-year-old Legos that are still around. And
they still work.
It was, oh, yeah. No, that's great. And, unfortunately, we're now into, I think the youth is more into software, as Dave pointed out. It's want to make gaming software and things like that. So it's we need the hardware builders. I remember, one of the first kits I built, especially in my college classes in Electronics 101, we built a Radio Shack AM radio. Just it was all part of the curriculum. And he's like, go down to Radio Shack, get this kit, and then we're going to do it in class. And it was kind of a fun little project. But But I like the what Karen just came up. All antennas need love.
Yeah, that's true.
Antennas love you long time.
It's really weird when you say it. I don't know. I think we better.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, just a little bit. It messes with the algorithm. It's loving antennas. Type that in, and here this comes. What else is happening there? We landed on Mars again, which is a beautiful thing. I don't know if you got to see that, but I got to catch it in real time. And NASA has a great channel on YouTube, and you can watch it and hear the people who are involved in it. And what I found was the transition team. They transitioned from the landing team to the new team that's going to deal with it as it's going across Mars
on the surface.
What do you think about it?
Oh, that's great. That's going to be awesome. And I mean, we have Curiosity that's still running around. That was only supposed to last for a few months, and it's been going on for years. And so there's a lot of high hopes with this new rover. And then on top of it, it's going to collect some samples, and then I think in the future they want to retrieve those samples and bring them back to Earth. So that's going to be interesting, and how that all plays out. So no, it's pretty cool. It is super, super cool.
I want to remind you, we're going to give away a $100 gift certificate to Main Trading Company. We'll do that probably at the top of the hour. So get your call signs into the chat. You kind of have to have your name and call sign in the chat to win. We'll pick a winner at the top of the hour who submitted from last week. So we'll do that in just a little bit. What else are they talking about here? Just scrolling through erector sets. Remember erector sets? People were talking about that. Jeff mentioned those.
There was those, and I mean, it just once the Legos hit, it was like it just blew up with Legos, and then now we're kind of talking a little bit about looks like antennas, and so that's good. No, it's been a pretty active group there.
Did you make Lego towers when you were a kid, Steve? Since you're a tower climbing guy, and by trade, you didn't make real tall towers, and the little guy had to go up.
I really wasn't into Legos. We didn't have that. I had a lot of Lincoln Logs.
Logs I had too.
Yeah, we had those, and then erector sets, and built some tower structures. Not by then, when I was messing around with them, I didn't have the radio bug. It was probably about 12 years old when I got the radio bug, and it's been all downhill from there. So it's been a while, but yeah.
That's some interesting. Go ahead, Seth.
And then it was just from there on down. It was just one of these walking back and forth to school and going by this one house that had a tower and a tri-band beam, and this older gentleman. And one day I got the nerve up, and he was out in his backyard, and because we kind of cut through a church parking lot, so I asked him, I go, "What's that?" And then that was it. He showed me a station, and I kind of remember either it was Collins or Heathkit, but his station looked like what's behind me, and that I was done. That was it.
I failed to mention Dave's going to be presenting at the QSO Today Ham Expo. So he's going to be talking. I just was reminded myself. There's something in your brain that will remind you after you miss. But he's going to, I'll be there. We'll be there too. 100 Watts and Wire will be at the expo, and we'll have a booth there like we did last year. And that was actually the beginning of this sort of streaming thing. You and I did something. I was encouraged by Ian, Kilo India 9 Whiskey. He was like, you should stream from the expo to Facebook. And we ended up doing that. Little did I know, several months after that, I'd be knee deep. We almost have 100 videos. And
here we are.
Now we're addicted to it. It's crazy. Streaming is so fun. It's so fun. But being able to interact with you guys is what makes it fun. We're going to be doing another bit. We're going to do the giveaway. So put your call signs in there. 100 ducats, man. That could get you some stuff. And in the spirit of radio, if you've already got some stuff, we've mentioned Steve and I've got enough stuff. I can be on the air. It's good. We're good. So if I were to win it, I would probably give it to somebody who needs something or hand up. If you can do it, that might be the spirit of radio, but maybe you need it, You do whatever you want with it. We'll pick a winner here at about 11 o'clock Central Time. So get your call signs in there. We've been doing this thing for the last couple weeks, the Spirit of Radio, where people come on and tell us stories. And we've had some stories about call signs where a grandson has picked up didn't even know his grandfather had been a ham until his mom was like, oh yeah, you're interested in that? So is your grandfather, by the way. Found his call sign, applied for it, got it. Last week we had Stephen on. He talked about obtaining his father's call sign, teaching us about his dad and hearing it. It's radio related, but my father's, they have a thing too. He was KLM 2866 was like his CB number.
That was his call sign. That was
engraved in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
It was written on his push pin board, and so I could relate when Stephen said that he would hear that call sign all the time. And this was for me it was 1978. I still have that call sign that was written. So we're taking some moments to just kind of share stories, and the spirit of radio really is when you give back, or you remember somebody who helped you along when you couldn't do it for yourself, or somebody gave you tools, or why you picked that call sign. Because frankly, about a month ago, we started getting fed up. I was, not to get on another rant about it, but so much negativity that, radio is a great thing. And it's the reason why we got into this. And I just want to share these stories. Everybody's got a story. So maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll just do it here. We'll take another break. And come back here in a second. Actually, we're not going to take a commercial break, but I'm going to pull this up here. Steve, I'm going to keep you with me this time around, unless you want to go play around in the chat room if you want to.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
All right, you hang here with me. We're going to bring up another guy who's got a great story. It's Phil. His call sign is Whiskey Zero Romeo Hotel Papa, and he looks just like this. Good morning, brother. How are you?
Hey, Phil.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going?
It's going good. How about yourself?
Oh, in support of my Texas friends that are chilling and having all kinds of issues, my furnace decided to quit a couple days ago. So I managed to play HVAC repairman and get it to where it's at least functional. So,
good for you.
Well, good deal. Well, we won't keep you too long here, but we've been in the spirit of radio and talking about call signs, and you let me know that you have a story too. Tell me about your call sign.
Well, my dad started out as a ham radio operator, I think when he was still in high school back in the 50s. And he was a K9 call back then, living in when he got his license in the Chicago area. And of course, back then, every time you moved from one district to another, you had to get a new call sign. So I'm going through some old QSL cards. I've got most of his previous call signs, except for when he was living in Oklahoma City. When they moved into Kansas and he got the W0RHP call was when the FCC quit mandating having to change the call sign to match the district. So he was W0RHP for a lot of years. And when he passed away in 2001, I was the only ham in the family at the time, and we couldn't bear the thought of somebody else getting that call sign. So I applied for it, and being a family member, of course, I got the legacy call, and which is confusing because I'm a junior, so people aren't sure whether they're talking to him or they're talking to me.
How does that work out with making contacts? I mean, if your dad was pretty active on the air up until a certain time, he's probably in many, many, call books or logs. Did you ever have that kind of situation where you made a contact and they thought it maybe was your dad?
I did one time back in what was it, 03, I think it was, or late 02. I was driving a truck, and I had to lay over in Las Cruces to get some time back in my log so I could continue down the road. So I fired up my HR 2600 and made a contact with a guy in Nova Scotia, and he looked it up in his logs, and apparently had made contact with my dad and said, "Well, it's been a long time since we've chatted. How have you been?" And I said, "Well, so I had to explain to him that I was junior, not senior."
Some of the things that your dad was into, was he into working DX or antenna building? What was his sort of layer that he liked?
Well, being a minister and college professor, he was real busy and didn't have as much time for ham radio when I was still living at home. So as far as building stuff and whatnot, but he was big into AM contacts, and I remember his receiver was a national NC 300, which was a fabulous radio. I spent a lot of time listening on it. His transmitter was a Globe King 500.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, Joe Walsh has a Globe King 500 in his collection, I noticed. Then moving around that heavy equipment, he finally got into smaller, more compact rigs. And after I got my Novice, back in the late 80s, the highlight of my ham radio career was when he was in Milwaukee and I was in South Central Kansas. We managed to have a Morse code QSO on 40 meters, and
oh, nice.
That's the highlight of my ham radio career at this point.
Any questions, Steve, for Phil?
So, do you have any of your dad's old equipment with you, or?
I do. When he passed, since I was the only ham, I inherited a bunch of stuff, and I'm using his ICOM IC 735, and trying to figure out all the intricacies of that piece of equipment, and I've made a few contacts on it since I've got it put into practice, and it's a good radio.
Oh, nice. Well, excellent. And I did get a kick out of the QSO with the guy in Nova Scotia, and it was like, have you had any others that it's like, pardon me, what was your dad's first name?
Phil.
Okay, so you're junior. Yeah. And it was like, "Hey, Phil, how you doing?" Blah blah blah, and it's like, "No, I'm junior." But no, that's great. I always wonder how siblings that have taken their parents' call sign, meeting up with contacts that that knew your parent from years before, and that's great. That's I'm glad you got a chance to chat with someone that actually chatted with your dad and things like that. So
oh yeah I decided to wear a ball cap today because I didn't think the screen would look too well with three bald guys on it.
Very thoughtful.
Thank you.
Hey, Phil, do you attribute your ham radio interest to your father?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. When we lived in West Hartford, Connecticut, this would have been right around 1970. I begged him to take me down to Newington so we could look around, and nice. I had my ham radio interest for a long time. I don't know, started trying to get into it several times. I actually encouraged a couple other people to get into ham radio, and of course they took the ball and ran with it. And I'm going, I should probably get my ticket one of these days. So finally bit the bullet and sat down, got to 5 words a minute and got my novice, and then upgraded to Tech Plus, and sat on that for too many years. I lived in an HOA down in Oklahoma City, and no antennas, and so I was pretty much dormant except for mobile VHF, and then a couple of years ago upgraded to General finally. So ultimate goal, I'd like to get my extra, not so much for the extra privileges, but be able to try and get into the VE program and try and bring other people along into this great hobby.
Oh, great. That'd be fantastic.
Do you remember, Phil, when you got your ticket, any conversations with your dad, with his feeling with you actually becoming a ham too?
Oh, he was proud of me. And when I finally graduated from Wichita State University, working full time, going to school part time takes forever. But as a reward for that accomplishment, he gave me an Alinco DR570 so that I have the dual band VHF UHF. I was a Tech Plus by then, and so we talked ham radio quite a bit, and just something else to bring us closer together.
Any
one thing that's
go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, people that knew he was a minister, when they saw his ham radio license plate, asked him if that said worship.
That's close.
Yeah.
Any operating experiences with your dad that stand out? That, maybe you did something together, or any portable type of stuff, mobile operations?
Not really. When I had time to spend with him on vacation and whatnot, his football injuries had caught up with him, so he wasn't as ambulatory as what he would like to have been, and so we did go to a ham fest in the Milwaukee area one year. I drug him out. He didn't want to go, but he went, and he had a great time while we were down there. I went to one of those vendors that makes the custom ball caps and whatnot, and had a hat that's had my N0 LQK call on it. Uh-huh. And he thought that was pretty cool, so he had one made just like it with his call sign on it. And I've got that cap around here somewhere. So it's kind of neat, every time I sit down at the radio, I think of him. And
speaking about the radio, go back to that QSO you had with your dad on CW. Were you really nervous, or how were you?
No,
how were you feeling?
Yeah, not really. I was excited. I mean, we in order to try and hear each other tuning up, he had a Kenwood TS830 and I had a 530, and so you're having to trim the plate and the grid and everything to get tuned in just right, get maximum power, and so we were on the phone trying to find each other's carrier, and then when we finally did, we just let her rip, and it was just no nerves at all, just as if I was talking to him on the phone, just talking to him with a straight key.
Oh, that's great. Did Dad ever share with you how he felt that he finally made a QSO on amateur radio with his son? Did he ever share any of that with you?
Not that I remember. I mean, we had a good time, and after the QSO, we got on the phone and talked a little bit, and we're laughing about it, because his code was rusty. Of course, he was an advanced class, so he had passed 13 words a minute at one point, but hadn't used it for years, and I was a novice with, just 5 words a minute. And by the end of the conversation, we were both trucking along about 10, 11, 12 words a minute, something like that.
Nice.
So anybody who's studying code, you'll get it. I got it. Of course, I was a musician, so I, have a little bit of an advantage there. Stick with it. You'll get it. You'll have a blast. You don't have to be the 80 word per minute guy, and most of the hams out there, they're real respectful. They will slow down their code speed to match yours. Some of them don't, but most of them will. And, just anytime anybody says Morse code is dead, my immediate response is, hey, they use Morse code to save the world on Independence Day.
Hey, Phil, let me ask you a question. It might be a two-parter here, and then I'll let you go. Your dad moved around a lot. Did he ever talk about, man, I need, if I just had this sort of antenna, because this situation, I'm living in a new place, was there an antenna that he looked for, or that one that was solid for him, one that he knew that he could go up, get it up, and then go to?
Well, most of the antennas that he used, in the early years, he had a Gotham vertical, and had the coil on the bottom that you had to move things around for the different bands, like kind of a precursor of the Wolf River coil. But I don't ever remember him using that. He just made his own dipoles, and in fact, that's what he was using in Milwaukee when he passed away. We had bought him a Hustler 6 BVT for Father's Day one year, and by then he wasn't able to put it together and never got around to finding somebody to put it together.
Oh man!
So it's still sitting in my garage. I was going to put it together, but somebody gifted me a 5 BBT that was already put together, so I just put it up. Save the parts for the other one.
Right. Hey, well, thanks for sharing your story, Phil. It's great. I think it's always fun to stop and I talk about my dad. My dad was a busy guy too, and I have one photo of him in front of his rig. I guess my mom took it, and it's here. Nice. It's on display. But I remember it was very limited time. He was trying to raise a family. He was working all the time. And if he was home, he might be taking a nap. But that one shot, I've got one shot of him in front of that radio that means a lot. And I tell this story about he would key down. He had a D104, and the lights would flicker in the house. And the neighbors, we lived in a row home in Baltimore. Boom, boom, boom. Be like, hey. But I think it was a grounding issue. I'm not sure what it was, but the neighbors you'd hear him. Dum, dum, dum. He'd laugh. Keep
nice.
Going. He'd just keep doing it. He was like that. But thanks for sharing that story. I appreciate you, Phil, and I hope you're staying warm.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks for having me on. 73
for now. Take care.
LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need, from QRP to QRO, fixed station, portable and remote, matching your radio to your antenna using our lightning-fast proprietary tuning algorithms. LDG is a family-owned and operated company dedicated to bringing innovative, quality products to the amateur market. Our focus is on anticipating and meeting our customers' needs and providing them with world-class support as they install and use our products. All LDG products carry a full 2-year warranty that is fully transferable when you sell it, with no paperwork required. Support is only a phone call or email away. We're always here to help you. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com. If you want to learn programming for Arduino so you can get your electronics project off the ground, then Programming Electronics Academy is the place to be. A membership gives you full access to a library of detailed video courses, including the Arduino course for absolute beginners. PEA has video courses designed for beginners that don't assume you already have a PhD in software design. If you're tired of just cutting and pasting code, visit programmingelectronics.com/100 watts.
Okie dokie. I want to share. I did a thing this week, Steve. Let's see, and I put to get more of these stories around. I've created a page on the website. If I can pull it up and find it, here we go, and share it with you. So everybody's got a story. So if you go to 100wattsandawire.com, now you can find a page where you can submit just some simple stuff: your call sign, your name, your email address, and a little bit about your story. Share a little bit about your story here, and I'll call you back and we'll bring you in here to tell it. Because, just like Phil and Shane and Steven and you and me, we all have something. Somebody somewhere helped us along the way. And it's if nothing else, it's a good chance for us to remember the people. And I always appreciate anytime I can think of my dad or tell a story about him. I appreciate that. But go to the Spirit of Radio right up here at the top there, and you will be able to submit your story. And I look forward to hearing that.
And then the history we learn that that hasn't been spoken about, and we get to learn about those things that happened over the years. But having stories of family members, or even if it's not a family member, if someone that inspired you, an Elmer, we just want to hear these stories.
All those stories, all those lives. We found out he was a minister. He went around, and those jobs are kind of, you go around, and they still are that kind of way, where you go to different town to town. I start thinking about, man, what a potential nightmare in terms of being a ham radio operator and trying to get your gear up, trying to get an antenna up that works, one that's, I don't know. It's just fascinating to see people's lives. Hello to anybody who's new. If you're new, put your name in the chat. I'm kind of looking at it now, and also put your call sign in there, because we're going to give away $100 that you can spend at Main Trading Company. They are in Paris, Texas. I hope they're doing okay. I don't know what's going on in Paris at the moment, Texas. But we know our friends in Texas are struggling a bit, hopefully getting some warmer temperatures and getting out of this.
Sounds like they're kind of coming out of it. So.
I hope so. Maybe there's a heat wave coming along, but put your call signs in there. Just one time is enough. My daughters and I will pull the call signs. We assign a number. Yesterday, we picked the winner, and my oldest daughter wanted to give away 2. I said, 2? That's $200. Go to your room. No.
You're so generous.
But there's like, let's give away 2 or 3. How about 5? There's, I think there was like 35 entries or something. Let's give away more.
We only have to pick
spirit.
One, Dad.
That's only the spirit. One. She's like, I like number 17 and 34. And I was like, okay, which one do you want to take? And she went with number 17.
34.
So it might be a good lottery number. I will just take a small percentage.
Take 17
for the babies. For the babies. Oh, what? You tied it to an antenna measurement? What happened?
No, she doubled it. 17 and 34.
Oh, yeah.
She's working on her math.
She's working on her math. All right, let's give this antenna away. So
which one was it before he go? Was it 17 or 34?
17. She went with 17 first. She wanted to know who it was. And I said, okay, cool. Everybody wants to know who it is. And then she was like, all right, that's cool. 17 wins. And then she said, who's number 34? And then we went, to see who it was. And she's like, oh, cool. And I said, maybe next week we'll pick whoever number 34 was. She got it. She was fine. She was just being a little extra generous. So, each weekend this month of February, we had 4 $100 gift cards to Main Trading Company. And that's a place you can look online, because I've never been to Paris, Texas, but I've been to that website, and you poke around and they have everything, Steve. I mean, everything. I've been looking at a scanner, one that will let me hear the trunked systems here.
Oh, yeah.
And to my dismay, I found out that they are several $100. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
I just want to listen to the local stuff. They have them there at Main Trading Company. And of course, you can get a good deal, or you could trade something. This kind of deal. So it's an interesting store, and it's a family thing. And I always dig that. But do whatever you want with your money, thinking in terms of, if you can, and if you got some stuff, pay it forward, but do whatever you want with it. This week's winner is here. Number 17. It's Mark. November 9, Whiskey India Bravo. Congratulations to Mark.
Congratulations, Mark. Way to go.
Number 100 ducats. Number 17.
Hondo.
Yeah, you got a hundo, some ducats. What is that, Danish? I think that's Danish currency. I don't remember. But Mark, we'll be in touch with you. And congratulations. Get your names in the call signs. And Steve, are you ready to do this? I hope that we have some questions. And I did put the questions.
Yep, you posted the questions link a couple times.
I'll do that again for you right now. And if we don't get to them today, we'll put them in the queue for next time. That's what we want to do. So here you go. Questions. Look at that sexy microphones.
Questions.
Lots of questions. Some are easier than others. If we don't know the answer, we'll go and research it. We'll try to find the answer for you. But Steve's got over 40 years in the game, and usually he's got a good lead, if nothing else. Okay, Steve, you ready?
Bring it on.
Ongoing off-center fed issue. My rig would stop transmitting on 20 meters. FT8 running, 20 watts. Rest of the bands transmit fine. Realized RF coming in the shack. MFJ 915 isolator. And now it's fine. Should I look at replacing coax?
So everything is fine now? If the radio stopped transmitting on 20 meters, FT8 run it. Sounds like it was like a high VSWR because the radio is going into self-protect mode. So I would start looking at, I always talk about we have systems. So we have our radio system, which is the radio and everything here in the shack. Then we have our transmission system, which is the coax. Then we have the antenna system, which is the antenna. So let's break it down. And so check the coax. And if you have a dummy load, that is probably one of the tools that I recommend everybody to have a dummy load. That way you can check your coax. You can put the dummy load at the end of the feed line and then make your tests that way, run full power. If everything checks out fine, now you've kind of isolated, okay, the coax system's in good shape, and then move on to the antenna. So what's kind of interesting is that typically if it was bad coax, it'd be bad on all the bands. So I'm kind of leaning that there was something going on in the antenna, and either there's a failure in that isolator, but now it's fine. So there's something that could have been moisture, and then finally it cleared out. And so start looking at that and breaking it down into two systems and go from there. And then another thing you could probably do is slap together a real quick 20-meter dipole and change out the off-center fed and throw the dipole. And that's another way if you don't have a dummy load, and see how that plays out. 16 feet of wire on each side, and away you go.
Incidentally, and another thing is going to be a spin-off show here at 100 watts and a wire. And another thing, usually it comes out when we've been drinking. And another thing. Here's one from Dwayne. NVIS is my next antenna build. I'd like it to be a fan dipole inverted V. Should look like a 6-legged spider in the yard. 30, 40, 80 meters. My question: if I'm using a 15-foot PVC mast, could I bump it up a couple of feet and add a 2-meter vertical with radios on top? How well would this work?
That'd work. I mean, the 2-meter vertical with the HF antennas won't see it. I mean, 2-meter radials are 19 inches long, so it shouldn't be a factor. It sounds like the fan dipole, that's more like a maypole. Mm-hmm. So if you spread them all out evenly, and but as far as NVIS, it won't go any. It's 10 megahertz, which is 30 meters and down. After that, you won't get the NVIS function with 20 meters and above. So, but it should work. It should. The 2-meter antenna will have no effect on the HF antennas.
So you say the HF antenna won't see it, meaning it won't pick up anything, won't interfere with it.
There won't be any interactions. There shouldn't be. That's the 2-meter wavelength is so small versus the HF wavelength, there'll be no interaction.
Okay. I remember Dr. Bob talking about the bow tie. I don't know if this is the same sort of thing he's talking about with the mass, where you have, like, say, an 80 meter antenna across the top and a 40 meter going this way, and it would look like a bow tie. And when you get it up there, you could, if you get it up there right. My story was quite different. I had one. I put it up there a little too close to the tree trunk, and the oak of the trunk kind of snagged the wire, and then it becomes a Chris Farley skit when I'm pulling, and it just became a big. So I think it's good to put it on like a push-up mast, and then you're in the clear. But when you're in the trees like I am, that's a hard antenna to do. But Dr. Bob said, put it up there, try it out. And I was like, okay. And I was a little too close to the trunk of that tree. And my experience was not great, unfortunately. Here's another one from Keith, LZ4JD. My beam antenna was hit by lightning 3 times last year.
Hey.
Since then, has had SWR 1 to 5, but has gone deaf. I have changed coax, plugs, balance, etc. Been told it's no longer worth keeping because the electricity has compromised the integrity of the metal. Could this be true or just rubbish talk?
Well, there's so many. So I would imagine the insulator at the driven element. So it all depends on the design, but just the basic beam antenna is just think of it as a dipole with parasitic elements. But most likely there's probably short. It's shorted out. That's why it's gone deaf. If it's not shorted out, it's open because either there's something that's making a connection from the balun. You said the balun's okay, but I'm thinking there's something shorted out. Just 3 times. Holy smokes!
Yeah, I'm rebuilding everything after 3 lightning strikes. I couldn't imagine having confidence in any aspect of that.
I would bring that down, and it has to be taken apart completely. But if there's an insulator, like on the high gain antennas, there's like a sleeve that is the insulator, and that the element goes into that, and then the clamp kind of comes down on top of that. And I would imagine with a lightning strike, that's probably punched through. It's arced over. You got melted materials. That's a total teardown, and you could probably salvage some of the pieces, make another antenna. But I'm still amazed on the 3 times. It's like, holy smokes, dude.
That's brutal.
That is absolutely brutal. But if the antenna took the damage and the brunt of it, then you got out cheap.
Yeah, for sure. We got another question here. And I'm going to put it in. Let me get rid of this one here. All right. Did I just lose it? I'm losing myself. I'm losing my mind. Stand by, everybody. I'm going to put that on the screen for everybody. 3 times.
That one blows me away. That just absolutely.
That antenna does not want to be there. That's like I've never heard anything like that.
I'm surprised any of the antennas left.
It would be parts for me. If I knew that it was hit by lightning even once, I would probably bring it down and, serious tests. But after the second lightning strike, I'm probably thinking
it's going in the scrap pile.
I got to move it. Like, this is not working. Where do I live? I don't know all those details, but holy smoke. Okay. Here we go, Steve. Ray asks, how far off the ground does a 40-meter dipole need to be?
You can have, how far can you get it up? You get it up.
Come on, Ray. Is this a trap? This guy's going to go down in the wrong way. But this is an interesting thing here. We talked about NVIS a little bit. So proper, if he's asking for proper height, like just so. What do you think?
Ideally, 60 feet. then you get it up a half wave. I mean, that's ideal, but not everybody can do that. But you can also go as low as 5 or 6 feet. I have chatted with guys on 80 meters, on 75 meters. They've had their 75-meter dipole at the top of their wooden fence line, which is, 5, 6 feet, whatever. And they were in the Southwest, down in Arizona and Mexico. And I'm here in the Northwest. And we still, and you got out. So you get it up as high as you can. That's practical for your situation. But, it'll work at 5 feet. I mean, it's going to be truly an NVIS antenna, but you will definitely get out and make contacts. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm at 50 feet, and I think that's a victory. I think that's great. I mean, but that's still less than ideal. But, in my portable rig, I'm working 25 feet in the air. I love it. 25 feet portable. I can manage it. I'm not, balancing the mast and getting frustrated. It works. And you're making contacts, across the country with no problems. And then you put the 20 meter up at that height, you're dealing with some DX,
Exactly. Because now you're getting more than a half wavelength and you're getting close to a full wavelength. If you get to 60 feet, it's full wavelength on 20 meters. And so it's we keep saying, get it as high as you can, what's practical, or get it up, just get it up. And whatever,
it's a new t-shirt.
You can
just
get it up.
I actually like that one a lot.
Antennas need love, and get it up.
Yeah, we're going to have a new line. Okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you for those questions. Some others came in, and we'll add those to the queue for next week. But, you guys, we're starting to get toward the later times now. So we'll take a peek into the chat. Thank you for that information, Steve. I think almost everybody's working in an NVIS situation, although it's considered much lower. But, ideal height doesn't really work for everybody. You can't do it. So saying hello to everybody in chat. If you're new, put in the chat that you're new. We'd like to meet you. It's a great community and nice folks. And I appreciate you stopping by. If you're new to the channel, poke around and check the playlist. We do several shows and several streams a week. So you want to stay up to date with what's happening there. We've got giveaways every week. What are you seeing? You're scrolling in there. What are these guys up to?
Paul, get it up. Antennas need love. There goes the algorithm.
Yeah, there goes the algorithm. I know. It's just going to be tough.
We just tweaked it.
What's Tamay say? Christian did ask earlier, what's up with my weekend? Well, 1 minute to out means 1 hour in. Hope to hear Christian and Steve there too. Okay. He likes to listen to us on the road in real time type of stuff. So that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And so this is the show that heads to the podcast side. That'll be posted later on today. Mm-hmm. And don't forget your stories. Share your stories. The spirit of radio doesn't need to be call sign oriented. You can talk about anybody that helped you along the way. Stories. I've got one I never even have told about my dad, and I'll tell it some other time. But sort of a search and rescue situation. Although it wasn't amateur radio related specific, this was more CBs. He didn't get his license in amateur radio, but he was part of this team that went out and looked, for lost kids. And I went out with him one time, and
nice,
just an amazing experience. And I think that's part of me being interested in that search and rescue, MCOM. These seeds are planted when you're a kid and you're out there in the dark listening. We live by the zoo. And this little girl went missing, and he was riding around in his van and just looking around. But the communication that's going around, the coordination of where people were, it was just fascinating. Fascinating stuff. So there you go. Check on the website. We've got that. Click the Spirit of Radio tab at the website. Tell us your story. We'll schedule you to come on and talk about it and share some good memories and good stories. Check out the programming page there as well. We do something on Wednesday evening. We've got a net going there that streams Saturday morning, the pre-show. It's nuts. Most of the people you see in the chat are twisted individuals. Then they come and they pour water on my twisted seed and turn me into a Betty White lover. literally. But we also talk about radio and make contacts with the people we know and meet some new friends. And then we come into the big show here. We do the Saturday 10 o'clock show. Goes to the podcast guest like we saw today with Dave and Phil sharing their stories, different topics. Sunday is another thing. We're on the air. It's a live stream. We've got a new net controller break in. So I sent Paul to Steve so Steve can mold him and get him in. But he's always got a great signal. Paul in Toms River, New Jersey joins the team this week. Interesting to see how that'll fit in. Hopefully a new band maybe.
That's going to be great.
Something else. And you'll be able to watch this right here on the channel as it goes back and forth. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to interview Hap Holly. Many of you of a certain vintage may know Hap from the Rain Report. He started it and ran it for 30 years. Tomorrow we'll touch base with him. So look forward to that. We do a Sunday evening show. And for now, I usually just sit and talk to somebody. Lots of interesting people on ham radio. And he's really fascinating. He hasn't had sight since, I don't know if he ever did, frankly. I don't know how old he is, but I know since the 50s he's been blind. And that doesn't define him. He would go to Hamfest and he would set up and he would interview people and he'd come back, and he enjoys audio editing. And it's just an interesting... the fact that he's blind is not even the main story. The fact that he did 30 years of creating content on a shoestring budget for nothing, nothing. Most of the people creating content and not making anything.
Hap and Bill Pasternak are the OG of the amateur radio media. I mean, these guys were the precursor of where we are today. They got us, they were the pioneers in moving forward and using audio. And if these guys came along now, I mean, they would have just been with both feet and just going along. So, I mean, I look at them as the pioneers that got where we are today in the amateur radio media.
Because there's nothing in it. There's nothing in it for people except their heart. It's their heart. It's a soul thing. It nurtures their soul to be able to put things together and to put it out there, content. The fact that he can't see is just another layer of difficulty in doing what he did for 30 years. But the fact that you would attack doing content for 30 years, that's a lot. That's a lot of time. And so there's something in there that I'd like to get to and find out what that is. So tomorrow night we'll bring on Hap and his voice. As soon as we connected on Thursday just to do the connectivity as you would do. And as soon as he started talking, I was like, there it is. There's that voice, there he is. I'm so familiar hearing it. He's doing a classic Rain Report now. So if you do a search for Rain Report, you'll find it. And he sort of retired from doing it on the regular. It's more, bi-weekly, or the archives are still there, but he did it. And he, this is before Ham Nation. We consider
before YouTube and what we have this before social media. We've always said ham radio was the original social media, and they took it. Hap, Bill, and others. They kind of got that path going for us, and we're reaping what they sowed, and it's great. I mean, I'm grateful for what they have done. And those years at Dayton, I'd see Hap doing his program there in the just outside of Audio Alley, and just people coming in and out and doing his broadcast, and just standing there and watching him operate was just amazing. And little did I know that he would be an influence that he is today, whether he knows it or not.
So another part of this aspect is paying tribute. It's just paying tribute to the people who laid the bricks. I mean, they're the ones holding up a lot of these YouTubers. And, I compared it to in the pre-show when I was meeting up with Steve before we even went live. imagine all the great ball players, Stan Musial, Brooks Robinson. You know, they made $100,000 in their day a year. So they played 21 seasons. Both of those guys played 21 years. So they just went over $1 million. They're historic Hall of Famers, unobtainable numbers by most stretches. You fast forward to today, the guy on the bench is making $1 million who's backing up the catcher in the bullpen, you know, and so
he might play a game or two and that's it.
Yeah, he fills in, he may get cut, but you know, he gets paid. And so those old timers, the ones who laid the bricks, you know, you got to tip the hat to the work that they put in, and you know, and in some ways they could see it a little clearer than we did. You know what I mean? We got technology, and YouTube is a big thing, and streaming is a big thing now. But imagine having to send off your tapes, you're recording stuff, you're recording on tape, you might be cutting and splicing, delivering the messages through answer phones. You know, the YouTubers and the people who are creating content today. I mean, I consider myself a streamer and a content creator, more so than just a YouTuber. But you gotta pay respects to, you know, we got it a lot easier. Oh. I mean, you flick a switch and bloop, you're streaming, and here's your face, and then do you have anything to say? You know, like, what are you going to say? What's your content then? These guys had the content, and the delivery method was harder. I mean, they were the ones going 3 miles in the snow with no shoes.
Uphill, both directions.
Uphill, both directions, went up.
It was just, and then it's just the grief these guys took. And I was like, what the hell are you doing this for? This is amateur. I mean, it was just, I remember this static Bill got for doing, you know, the Westlink report. And it was the haters. I mean, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. And these guys, they kept their head down. They kept moving forward. And they made that path for us. They laid those bricks, as you said.
Yeah.
And now we're reaping it, you know, the efforts that they did. So
I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back, and we'll talk. I mean, I'm interested in the media landscape anyway, but you know, to talk to the people who were doing it, you got to pay respect, get their story out there again. So I can't push them forward and inject them, especially when they're retiring, but you got to pay tribute.
Exactly.
Show respect. And that's what it's about. That is the spirit of radio for me. Well, thank you, Steve. We've done it again. We've fooled them. We've put several asleep. I saw Ricardo said, I'm going to take my nap. So we're kind of like the perfect little Ricardo. Yeah, you got to rock him out.
The caffeine is worn off, and now they got the sleepies.
I'm sleepy. Yeah, this is nice. His voice is so nice to sleep to. All right, guys. Well, 73 for now. We appreciate you. Like and subscribe if you like to. Hit the notification bell. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, 7 o'clock Central. Kick off the net. We're going to break in a new op, which is always fun. He's got a great sounding station. And we'll stream it out here. And then we'll go over and talk to Hap. No big deal. We'll have a lot of fun. 73 for now, friends. 73, Steve. We'll talk to you
7-3, Christian. And 7-3, everyone. Thank you for being here.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.